Hi, Super Kids! Hi, Mrs. Deeney's friends. It's Mrs. Got Heil. I hope that you all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome back to Kindergarten Story Time. This week, I'm so excited to share a wonderful story with you. It's an adventure about two friends, two unlikely friends, by one of my favorite authors, Julia Donaldson, called The Snail and the Whale. Now, some of you might already know Julia Donaldson. She was the author of one of my favorite books called The Gruffalo. And if you haven't heard the story of the Gruffalo, I'll have to read that to you. But if you have heard the story of the Gruffalo, she is the same author that brought us The Snail and the Whale. Now, in this adventure, the snail and the whale are two very unlikely friends. A very small snail and a very large whale go on a giant adventure together. And we learn that even the smallest creature can help a friend in the largest of ways. The Snail and the Whale by Julia Donaldson. I hope you enjoy. Pictures by Alex Scheffler. This is the tale of a tiny snail and a great big gray-blue humpback whale. This is the rock, as black as soot. And this is the snail with an itchy foot. The snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffed and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. She wants to go on an adventure. There she is, right there. These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wiggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sniffed and sighed, then cried, "I've got it! I'll hitch a ride." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail that looped and curled and said, "Ride wanted around the world." So that snail wrote a message right here, "Ride wanted around the world." Ooh, I guess it didn't really have an itchy foot. I guess the snail really just wanted to explore the world. This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the stars were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." And right here, boys and girls, that's where their friendship began. This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and far off lands. I wonder where they are. There's penguins, there's seals, and there's icebergs. with fiery mountains and golden sands. They must have traveled far. Now they're in a different part of the world. There's parrots and monkeys and even I bet you know what that is. Volcano. Ooh, and there's dolphins. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked, and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. There she is, right there on the tip of the tail. Ooh, it gets a little dark here. Let's see. I'll get a little closer. These are the caves beneath the waves where colorful fish with feathery fins and sharks with hideous, toothy grins swam past the whale and the snail on his tail. This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning, flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. Wow. That looks like a scary adventure right there. But they have each other. They sure do. And she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. And she said to the whale, I feel so small. I wonder, looking at this picture, why that snail feels so small. It must be because she's in this big, gigantic world. The world that we live in. But then came the day the whale lost his way. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. This is the tide slipping away. And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. Quick! Off the sand! Back to sea! Cried the snail. I can't move on land. I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, I've got it, she cried, and she started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. Oh, kindergarten friends, I wonder what the snail is planning to do. Do you have any ideas? This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board, as black as soot. And this is the snail with the itchy foot. Here she is, right there. She's writing a message. A snail, a snail. The teacher turns pale. Look, say the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, save the whale. Let's read it together, boys and girls. Save the whale. Wow, she had a really good plan. These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen, digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. Look, they're all helping to save the whale. It's such good teamwork, just like you guys do in school. This is the tide coming into the bay, and these are the villagers shouting, hooray! As the whale and the snail travel safely away. And there's the whale, and there's the little snail. She helped to save that big whale. Back to the dock, and the flock on the rock. Who said, how time's flown, and haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the enormous humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. Look at all those snails, boys and girls. What do you think they want to do? Do you think they want to go on an adventure too? I think you're right. And they sang to the sea, and they all set sail on the tail of the gray-blue humpback whale. The end. What a wonderful adventure of the snail and the whale. And you know, boys and girls, sometimes when I read a wonderful adventure, I like to think about the characters in the story, and I like to think if I would do the same thing as them, or if I would come up with a different plan. So, why don't you find someone at home, mom or dad, or your brother or your sister, or have fun FaceTiming grandma or grandpa, or your aunt or your uncle, and tell them about the adventure of the snail and the whale, and tell them what you would do if you were the snail and you had to come up with a plan to save the whale. I wonder what you would do. And I know that Mrs. Deanie and I would love to hear your plan. I miss you, super kids. I miss you, Mrs. Deanie's friends, but I'm so happy that I get a chance to read to you. See you soon.